Welcome back to SportsZone. This is our second edition of the Olympics segment, Passing the Torch. I'm joined by Aviva again this week to sort of wrap up the second week of action in Pyeongchang. Closing ceremonies will be tonight, and all medal events have concluded, so we can sort of reflectively look back at the Olympics as they were. Probably one of the biggest storylines of this past week was the U.S. Women's hockey team. They defeated Canada in the gold medal match 3-2. Aviva, this was a really big win for the women. It was 20 years in the making, a sort of historical result. So how important, sort of in the grand scope of this, was this for the women's hockey team?
It was really important. They came in, they weren't supposed to win this game. They weren't supposed to beat gold. Canada was the favorite, and they beat Canada 3-2 in a very exciting shootout. It went to like 7 rounds, and it definitely gave the USA a lot of fight, and it was really nice to see how well they actually did.
Yeah, the U.S. women medaling getting a gold medal for the first time since 1998. It also sort of supplements and is good for U.S. hockey, especially in a year where the men, when NHL players weren't allowed to compete, they had a lot of amateurs and college players. They got knocked out in the quarterfinals, didn't even make it to the medal round for the first time, coincidentally also since 1998, when the women last won a gold medal. So the U.S. retaining some bragging rights in hockey, and a really exciting game that it was. Another U.S. team won a gold medal, and while the U.S. women's hockey team sort of wasn't expected to win, you could plausibly see them winning, but the U.S. curling team had little to no expectations coming into this Olympics at all, but they were able to defeat Sweden after 2 weeks of competition, claiming the gold medal. Aviva, how odd was it for the United States to medal in this event?
Everyone's so excited that the men's won gold in curling. The men's were, like you said before, they weren't supposed to win. They beat Canada early on, and Canada might have been the favorite, but they beat Sweden 10-7 in a very exciting match that went back and forth. And I don't know, it was very exciting for the USA to get on top of curling, because curling is not a sport that the United States is known for at all. So it was really exciting to see.
Yeah, and not necessarily something like hockey where people can rally around, but the men's curling team, I think, losing 4 of their first 6 pool play matches, they turned it around, went 5-4 in the pool play, and as you said, knocking out Canada, who was a favorite, knocking off Sweden, who was a heavy favorite in this gold medal match, sort of bringing some recognition to curling in the United States. But while the hockey and the men's curling team sort of did well, overall for the United States, a pretty disappointing Olympics. They finished a pretty distant 4th in the medal haul, behind teams like Norway, or countries like Norway and Germany. Aviva, do you think, when evaluated holistically, this has to be considered a failure for the United States at this Olympics?
Yeah, they've had the worst medal count since 1998. And they only had 23 medals. Norway had 39. So there's a big difference there. And the United States were a favorite in a few sports, like ice skating. No woman medaled in an individual event, and Nathan Chen, who was a favorite in his individual ice skating events, and he didn't medal either. So it's very disappointing in there. And last week we talked about Lindsey Vonn. She competed in 3 events. Only 1 event she got bronze. So skiing and ice skating were very disappointing for the Americans.
Yeah, certainly. Also, Michaela Schifrin was competing in all 5 alpine skiing events. She comes away with only 2 medals. She didn't even wind up competing in 2 of those events, so really disappointing there. U.S. didn't do very well in speed skating, either long or short track speed skating. Some events maybe where they're not expected to do well or weren't really favored, like the sliding events like luge, skeleton, and bobsled didn't really get the job done. And even in some sports maybe where they were expected to do well. We talked about Red Gerard last week. The American men did not do well in snowboard big air, so the United States sort of really dropping the ball a little bit. But you mentioned Norway. They got the highest medal count with 39 ever in an Olympics, also got the highest number of gold medals, 14, sort of asserting their dominance on the global stage, which might be expected, a Nordic country doing well in the Olympics. to be expected. But Aviva, sort of when we look back at this Olympics, it's been a 2-week, sporting ceremony, lots of countries coming together, lots of great stories being shared. What do you think is one of the lasting impacts that will be of this Olympic Games?
I think, for me, it's how North Korea and South Korea were united. In the opening ceremonies, they marched as one country, and I think that's very symbolic of the world we are at right now. So that's my biggest takeaway.
Yeah, certainly showing that sports maybe seem as trivial to some people, but there can be some unifying aspects there. I think also the Olympic athletes from Russia, that'll be a big storyline to take away, not being able to compete under the Russian flag because of doping. Some athletes even getting in trouble with doping at the Olympics. So that, I think, will be sort of a black eye on an Olympics that, at least in the United States, wasn't received too well, whether it was the difference in timing or just poor displays by the Americans. But that sort of wraps up our Olympic coverage on SportsZone for the next 2 years until the Olympics roll around in 2020. So stick around for more SportsZone after this.